Welcome to episode 4, Actors Anonymous. And hope you caught last episode 3 with actor Vien Hong from This Is Us. Great episode. He gave a lot of jewels about acting. Crying hack, how to cry on cue. He talked about how to use physicality to bring out your acting and to enhance your acting. We talked about a lot of things, his personal journey, so definitely check that out, episode 3, and this is episode 4. And today's episode is absolutely necessary because we are an acting channel, Actors Anonymous, so I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about acting. So let's ask the question, what is acting? Anyone? What is acting? John? Mary? Joseph? Bobby? You don't know, do you? Oh, you know. You do know. Okay, so tell me, what is it? You can't tell me, can you? Well, if you can't define it or explain it to a 5-year-old, then you really don't know what it is, do you? You think you know. You've watched 1,000 movies. You've watched 1,000 actors' interviews. You know what it is in your head, yet you can't define it. And you can't explain it. So let me just tell you right now, you don't know what it is. But you do know what it... Oh, you do know. Okay, so what is it? Define acting. Acting is creating real behavior in an imaginary situation. That is acting. We've all heard myths. We've all heard wrong definitions. We all have our preconceived notions about what acting is, and most of us don't know what acting is, even many actors. Make believe, playing, pretend, method acting, you have all of these terms, you have all of these notions. But again, acting is creating real behavior in an imaginary situation. It's very simple. So we've all heard the term method acting. It's becoming the character. Well, first of all, no one can become someone else unless they're schizophrenic, psychotic, or crazy, or all three. How do you become somebody else? You don't become somebody else. And you say, but that actor stayed in character for the whole 3-month shoot. That actor's crazy. So you mean to tell me Al Pacino on the set of Scarface was at the crafty tent and got a call from his daughter, and he said to her, "I told you don't call me when I'm on set, you stupid little bitch." That sounded like a British accent, but anyway, that was my bad Scarface Cuban accent. So that's what you're telling me? I've heard that he stayed in character for the whole Scarface shoot. I heard that. So that's acting, that's method acting, being the character. I heard Leonardo DiCaprio slept in the carcass of a bear for 2 nights when he did the Revenant in the freezing cold. I heard Heath Ledger stayed in character as the Joker for the entire shoot. I heard Jared Leto stayed in character as the Joker when he played the Joker and was sending dead rats and bottles of urine to his fellow actors, and Daniel Day-Lewis stayed in character for this and for that. I mean, all of this is misguided hype. You can't become somebody else. It sounds glamorous, it sounds cool, it sounds... I don't even know what it sounds like, but it sounds stupid if you ask me, because it's not possible. We're all adults here, we're all of rational mind. And I'm telling you right now, nobody becomes a character. So what is method acting? What is acting? I'm going to explain that to you right now. You have a script. The script is biblical law. The script gives you the foundation of your character. It tells you who you are, how old you are, what nationality you are, your sexual orientation, your education, your family, do you have parents, do you have brothers, do you have a relationship, do you have children, etc., etc., etc. Whatever the script gives you, that is biblical law. Okay, these are the facts. This is what you have to begin with. Now, with all of the facts given to you by the writer of the script, from there, it's up to you, the actor, to flesh that out and to create the character. That is the actual method. The method is not pretending or convincing yourself that you're somebody else. That's highly misguided, immature, and again, insane. I don't care who did it or what you heard. These people just don't know the actual method, so they go to these extremes of tricking themselves that they're somebody else, and they wind up going crazy. Or they already are crazy, as I said. So I touched simply on what the actual method is, so let's go in depth a little bit about that. So I like to liken it to a clay sculptor. You know, you've seen those people who make lifelike images of people. I've seen it on crime shows when you have the artists who they get the police sketch and then they flesh it out and make a clay sculpture of the actual person that they're after. So that's the best example that I can think of. So the facts that the author of the script gives you would be the skeleton. So you begin with the skeleton. Again, your name, where you're born, where you're from, whatever they may give you. Again, that's the law. That's biblical fact. So you have that to begin with. So that's the skeleton. And again, from there, you're the sculptor. You start fleshing it out. You would put the clay on and you start molding it. So it gives you, let's say you're a straight male in your 30s. From there, you can say what type of women that you like. And then you can say, if it didn't tell you what your educational background is, you could say, I went to the University of Massachusetts because, let's say, for example, he said you're from the Northeast. So you would add in the information that's pertinent and relevant and seems to match and align with the biblical fact that the author has given you. And you'd match it and align it to the best of your ability, you know, down to what type of socks you like to wear if you want to go that far. I don't think it's necessary unless it's a story about being in the Arctic, you know, but you can flesh it out and put whatever details you want about the character. How many girlfriends you had in high school. Did you go to church? What was your major in college? Let's say the author said you're a journalist, then obviously you can say that you majored in communications or journalism in college if the author didn't tell you. So you flesh everything out according to what you need. You don't have to go overboard and overdo it, but you flesh it out and you add in the information to bring the character to life. And that is what method acting is. That's the actual method. Again, it's not being on set and convincing yourself that you're somebody else and remaining in that someone else throughout the shoot. You know, what are you going to do? Sit at the cafeteria, eat lunch as the Joker or as Scarface? I told you, glazed donut, you cocksucker! Like, that's just stupid. That's not what you're going to do. That's, again, childish and idiotic. The actual method is doing the work before the shoot, the preparation. And finally, you memorize the lines of the character. And when it comes to shooting, you already have your character fleshed out in your mind. You have their tendencies, you have their body language, you have their mannerisms, you have their history, and you absorb all of that. And obviously, finally, the last thing you do is memorize the lines. And when the director yells action, you are the character. You're not pretending to be the character. You are the character at that point. And when he yells cut, you're back to who you actually are. You're not remaining in the character's shoes. So I hope that dispels a lot of the myths, hype, and bullshit that surrounds method acting and acting. I defined it for you. I dispelled the myth of method acting for you. It sounds romantic and it sounds exciting, but it's not. It can actually be highly detrimental to your mental health, as we saw in cases of previous actors like Heath Ledger. He couldn't turn it off. He turned it on, but he couldn't turn it off. And you may say, oh, but we've seen such great performances when people did method acting. You know what? Maybe those performances were born of the method that they did, the preparation and the backstory and all of these things that they did. And maybe they didn't even have to remain in character as they did. And they still would have done the same job or possibly a better job. So think about that. So for all of you aspiring actors, don't feed into the nonsense. Just do the work. And it's very time-consuming, laborious, difficult work to do the research, you know, to plug in all of the facts, to study the script, and then to study each scene. It's a lot of work. It's time-consuming. It's laborious, as I said. So be a real actor. Don't be somebody who believes the hype and is misguided, because again, it can be detrimental to your mental health. And I'm going to touch on this before I go, just to give you a macro view of scene study and acting. You know how in biology we're an organism. You know, we're an organism, and within our organism we have millions of smaller organisms, down to the most microscopic cell. And each microscopic cell itself has a nucleus. It has a skin, a shell, a paramecium. It has legs, cilia that make it move, just like we have a heart and we have our skin, our epidermis, and we have muscles and legs that make us move. So it's like we're comprised of trillions of units that comprise us as a whole. So you can think of, let's say, for example, a film. Let's take a film. A film would be the entire organism, or let's just say the human being. And within the human being and within the film, it's broken down into scenes. So each scene has its own heart. Each scene has its own skin. Each scene has muscles. Each scene has legs. In other words, each scene, just like the movie, has a beginning, middle, end. And it has its climax, build up, and obstacles, goals. Each scene is a small microcosm of the entire movie. So in every scene, you have the goal that you need to reach. You have the obstacle that's blocking you from that goal, and other components of the scene. And then the entire movie is the same thing. There's a character who's trying to reach a goal, and then the character is facing obstacles to get to that goal. So it's broken down into that. So each scene is almost like a mini movie. So that's how you would approach it, and that's how you would study it, and you would break it down. You wouldn't try to make the entire movie in one shot. You're going to break it down and just focus on each scene as it comes. So these are just some ways to think about it. It dispels some myths, and hopefully it sheds some light as to the process that actors have to do. And that's the job, that's required of us. That's what people expect when you come to set. They want you to have the character fleshed out. They're not going to tell you. The director, the producer, the writer is not going to tell you, do this, do that. This character would do this, do that. It's totally up to you to bring to the table your ideas. They've done their job. They wrote it. The director has his shots in mind. The producer is going to do their job, setting everything up. But you need to bring something to the table. And what that something is the character entirely thought out, fleshed out, and ready to go when they yell action. So just keep that in mind and have something to bring to the table. And again, don't feed into the bullshit and the hype, method acting and sleeping in the carcass of a bear and all of this nonsense. It's just childish nonsense. It's childish bullshit. The real magic is in the work, just like anything else. There's no shortcut. So keep that in mind, and I hope that helped you. And thanks for joining me on this video. And again, remember to check out episode 3 with Vian Hong from This Is Us. And I'll see you next time. Take care, guys.